Hello beautiful people, my name is Vendi and today I'm bringing you the Disney song tag. I was tagged to do this tag by AJ from AJ Price and I'll have her video and the original linked in the description box below. The basic idea of this tag is that you take a Disney song and there's a prompt that's attached to that Disney song and you pick a book that you think fits that prompt. As a huge lover of all things Disney and of all things bookish, I think that this is the perfect tag for me and I'm really excited to get to it, so let's do that. Because of the technical difficulties that I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I can't actually cut in the songs, and I'm feeling a little sick, so I'm not going to be singing them, I'm just going to be saying their names, but if you're a Disney fan, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say them anyway. So song number 1 is A Whole New World, and the prompt for this one is to pick a book that made you see the world differently. I'm personally of the belief that every book that you read makes you think of the world slightly differently, that literature has an impact on the way you think and feel even if you don't know it consciously. But one book that made me very aware of how differently I saw the world after I read it was Persepolis 2 by Marjane Satrapi. Persepolis is Marjane's memoir. It takes place during the Iranian Revolution, and if you don't know anything about that, I highly recommend you research it because it is a fascinating time in the world's history. And it basically follows Marjane through her childhood and then through her young adulthood as she comes to terms with what it means to be Persian in this really not safe and not comfortable time in the world's history. It's just a way of looking at the world that I've never encountered before and I'm completely unfamiliar with, and it was remarkably fascinating. If you don't know anything about Iran, I really recommend picking this book up because it gives you a really insider's look. Question number 2 is Cruella De Vil. Pick your favorite villain. I love villains. I think that they're some of the most interesting part of just about any story you can read ever. That said, I hate when a villain is done poorly. Tropey villains are the absolute worst thing you can have. You know, the cackling, rubbing your hands together, mwahaha villains. No, they don't work for me. I can't say that I have a favorite villain because I like just about all of the ones that I read so much, but one that I read fairly recently and that has stuck with me was The Wood from Naomi Novik's Uprooted. To avoid spoilers, I'm not gonna say exactly how this all plays out, but the thing about the villain of Uprooted was she had very strong motivations for doing the things she did, and to her they were not evil. When a villain is evil for evil's own sake, it's very tired and tropey, and I'm sort of done with that kind of stuff. I need a villain to feel like they are doing the right thing. If a villain is doing the wrong things for the right reason, I'm immediately sold, especially if the villain is aware that the things that they are doing are not necessarily in the lawful good quadrant. The Wood in Uprooted is definitely that, and I just think that the dynamic of it is fascinating and the way that it's defeated is also fascinating. I hope that wasn't much of a spoiler. It's not a horror book, so of course the villain doesn't win, but in a way it does, and you're just gonna have to read it to find out what I mean by that. Prompt number 3 is I Won't Say I'm in Love. So pick a book that you don't like to admit that you love, and I don't have an answer for this because I've reached a point in both my reading life and my life in general where I'm not ashamed of the things I like. If I like something, I'm gonna let you know right away. Prompt number 4, Gaston. Pick a character that you could not stand. For this, I have to say Haley from The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Haley is, I think, the most dangerous type of racist, which is the kind that doesn't want to admit that they are racist. The reason this kind, I think, is the most dangerous, and as, you know, a person that's never had anyone be racist against them, because obviously, perhaps I am wrong in my estimation of it, but I think that people who don't admit they're racist, people who value their own feelings not being hurt over other people's literal lives, are just despicable, right? And Haley is despicable, especially considering that up until the events of this book, she was one of Star's best friends. After putting this down, she's one of the people that I thought about the most. She's just you gotta learn. You gotta learn from your mistakes. You're allowed to mess up. You're allowed to make mistakes. That's part of being human. But if you refuse to learn from them, that's when you jump across the territory into being like a hateful bigot, you know? Prompt number 5, part of your world. Pick a fictional world that you would love to be a part of and live in. This isn't gonna surprise anyone that's been around my channel for a while. I'm choosing Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. I have been fascinated by elemental magic ever since I knew what the term was, probably even before then. And Truth Witch has some of the best elemental magic that I've ever read. If you like Avatar: The Last Airbender, I highly encourage you to pick up this series. And if you don't like Avatar: The Last Airbender, what are you doing with your life? Also, Susan Dennard has said that the settings of certain places in Truth Witch were based off of some of the islands of Croatia, which is my home country. I'm Croatian. And she really nailed it. She nailed the vibe and the feelings of those places. It's 100% spot on. So elemental magic in my favorite place in the entire world, plus political intrigue, sign me up, please. If you can find a way to transport a human consciousness into a book, I will give you all of my money. Question number 6, a dream is a wish your heart makes. Describe the one true book of your heart. So like the book of your dreams. If everything could go exactly as you wanted, what would this book look like? And I don't want to answer this because I'm currently writing that book and I hope to publish it traditionally one day. So hopefully if you look back on this years from now and I'm a published author and this book is out and you've read it, that's the one. But just because I have to give you something, it involves a lot of female friendships, a lot of female romances, and magic that comes with a price. Question number 7, someday my prince will come. What book character would you marry if you could? And this one was surprisingly easy for me. I chose Jane from Jane Unlimited. Jane is highly intelligent, she's artistic, she's thoughtful, and she's got a really good head on her shoulders. Most of my book boyfriend and girlfriends who I low-key ship myself with are, I don't want to say they'd be bad marriage material, I just think we'd have to go through a lot of marriage counseling, whereas I think Jane and I would get along. I would love her and like her in equal measure. Question number 8, I See the Light. Pick a book that has changed your life. The His Dark Materials series by Philip Pullman. This is the Book of Dust, which is the follow-up trilogy or duology, I'm not quite sure, that Philip Pullman is writing basically right now. I love rich, dense fantasy, political intrigue, and some unlikable characters. And the reason for all of those loves, I think, is because of the His Dark Materials series. I loved it when I read it first as a child. I loved it again as I read it as an angsty middle teenager, so like age 15, and when I reread it at age 20 this past summer, I loved it again, and each time I got something completely different out of it. Philip Pullman is just a masterful storyteller, and I can't wait to get into this one because I just can't wait to revisit this world. It's changed my life, I think, for the better. Prompt number 9, pick a book that you wish that you could reread as if it were for the first time. The story that I would have to choose for this is the Bartimaeus Trilogy, or just any of the Bartimaeus books by Jonathan Stroud. These books are just so whimsical and dark and lovely, and everything that's wonderful about middle grade fantasy wrapped into one thing. Bartimaeus is snarky and fantastic, and the humans that he has to deal with are all so very human and very flawed, and they're a delight to read. As it is, it's been years, probably close to a decade since I first read the trilogy, and I'm planning a reread very soon because I read The Ring of Solomon recently and I absolutely adored it. So it'll be kind of like I'm rereading them for the first time ever because I barely remember what happens, but I really wish that I could get 100% brand new fresh eyes on this series. So that's the story that I'd like to make that wish upon a star for. Question number 10, I just can't wait to be king. Pick a book that has some sort of royalty in it. For this, I have to choose the book that I am currently reading, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. The words "a court" are in the title. There is a court, there are high lords, high ladies, probably a high king somewhere, but we're only going to get to him or her in later books. I love the political intrigue that is almost inherent in any Fae story, so that's one of my favorite aspects of this book so far. And finally, question number 11, Colors of the Wind. Pick a book with the most beautiful cover, and I'm going to have to say Jane Unlimited. Again, I'm not even going to say anything. Just look. Just look. And that's it for the Disney song book tag. Thank you so much to AJ for tagging me, and now's the time when I tag some of you lovely folks. So as always, I'm tagging my staples, Books Are a Way of Life, and Random Girl Reading. I also want to tag Hannah Books and Other Things, and I want to tag 2 relatively new channels, so Chaya Reads and Snow White and the Seven Shelves. I want to see you guys do your takes on this as well, and if you don't like Disney, that's fine. You don't have to do this tag, but if you do, I would love to see it. But that's it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like me, maybe consider subscribing to this channel. I think I'm pretty great. Regardless, that's all I have time for today, and I will see you next time, guys. Goodbye.